having the business mindset and running your business like a business. I tell, my people and all the friends in our industry, look, we are not in the painting business. We're in the people business. We're in the customer experience business.
Welcome to the Cleaning Up Podcast, Millionaire Secrets of the Home Services Industry. Brought to you by me, Ron Holt, CEO and founder of Two Maids and a Mop, America's fastest growing cleaning company. I get a chance to sit down with home service industry pros and other entrepreneurial leaders so they can share their stories, their insight, their experiences. It's so much fun. You're going to learn so much. And you're going to be inspired to take your small business into a national brand just like I did. Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Cleaning Up Podcast, Millionaire Secrets of the Home Services Industry. Of course, I'm Ron, CEO and founder of Two Maids and a Mop. I started this little company I guess now more than 18 years ago, and somehow, some way, we've made it to the top of the residential cleaning world. And what I love more than anything is talking to other people that have made it to the top of their world inside the consumer services space. And today, we've got one of those guys. His name is Jason Phillips. Jason is the owner of a painting company called Jason Phillips Painting. He's based in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. He has been on CNBC. He's been featured in books. He's built his business to almost 80 people that work all around the DFW area. And I can't wait to hear more about Jason's story because it started almost 25 years ago. So Jason, welcome to the Cleaning Up Podcast.
Hello, Ron, and thank you. It is an absolute honor to be here with everybody here today. I'm super excited about chatting with you today.
You bet. All right. So I love asking this question to anyone that's in the home services industry, but because it's usually the same answer every time, but maybe this time's different. So let's go back to when you were a young lad and you were growing up, and I'm assuming like everybody else in the home services industry, you were born to run a painting company. Is that true?
Absolutely, Ron. When I was in first grade, I was dreaming of owning a painting company. No, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. Never expected to end up where I'm at.
Right. Well, tell us how you got to a place where you became the owner of that. Were you in the industry prior to starting your own business?
Well, I was actually in the industry. Some buddies of mine at church needed some help with their company, and I came on and was helping them with their residential painting company, selling, running the office. And eventually they were selling the company and went through a failed transition, and it was just running into the ground, and I wasn't getting paid. I was literally 6 weeks behind on my paychecks and living out of my parents' pantry, basically
Sure.
getting groceries at my parents' house. And my friends came to me one day and they're just like, Jason, this guy isn't paying us. We think he's running the business in the ground, and we just want to give you our blessing. We think you can do this on your own. And we just want to give you our blessing. If you want to go and start out on your own, it would probably be better for you. And so after much prayer and counsel, I went out and started knocking on doors, the good old-fashioned way, trying to get business, and that's where it all started, 1997.
Well, I love asking this next question too. Very similar to the first question. I usually get the same response, but I'm assuming as soon as you opened it and as soon as you resolved those early problems, everything was roses. You just became a millionaire overnight, and there was no headaches, nothing, right?
Oh my, it's definitely one challenge after the other. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? But of course, when you're just starting out, you're fighting for survival. You're doing whatever it takes, and so that's what I did, and then started achieving success. Went from survival to success, and then eventually you start having a mindset of significance.
Well, let's talk about those early days, if you're okay, going back to those tough days, because I know when I think back to my early days, when you're going through it, you're just working. You're not really thinking about how painful it might be or how hard it might be or how risky it might be even. But when you look back on it, sometimes you feel a little knot in your stomach, at least I do, because I'm like, how did I get through it? Because it was tough. So did you have those, you talked about the payroll issues, but how long did those startup pains occur? And then talk to us about what some of the specifics were, and then hopefully what people can do to learn from our mutual mistakes during those startup days.
The barrier to entry in my business is very low. I needed a few painters and some business cards and some door hangers to go hang out on some doors, and that's really all I needed. So I literally used the last few dollars that I had available on my credit limit that I hadn't bought groceries and tires with to buy a printer at the Office Depot and some card stock, and printed up some cards and business cards. And so once I got started, I began, because of the low barrier, I began turning a profit fairly quickly, So I didn't have to really go into any significant debt, but I was trying to climb out of a personal debt hole at that point. But having said that, there's always growing pains because you start getting all this business, but you don't have the infrastructure or the resources to seize the opportunity. And that's when it starts getting complicated and making, other decisions. Now you're investing, at that time, it could be, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in hopes of seizing an opportunity for growth and serving more customers or hiring an employee.
Right. Well, so did you hire someone right out of the gate, or were you out there painting the walls yourself?
So I never actually did the painting myself. I did everything but the painting. I did, rotten board replacement, and I did all of the office work, all of the bookkeeping, all of the marketing, all of the sales, the project management. I did everything except the actual painting.
I think that's actually, you may not have thought of it this way, because I sure didn't think of it this way when I was building Two Maids and a Mop. I think that actually may be one of your secrets to success, because in the trades, most people who enter the trades business, consumer services industry, do that because they're really good at that trade. They're great at painting, they're great at cleaning, whatever it might be. And they're so good at it, they think they can build a business around it. And they are good at it. But unfortunately, what they discover is they're not very good at running a business. In fact, usually what I see is they're not just not good, they don't like it. They like painting. And so they usually revert back to what they're good at and what they like. And instead of staying inside the office and selling and paying bills and figuring out how to invest capital and internally and build that business, they are out in the field. And that's never, ever going to allow you to scale. And that's why most people, I believe, in the trades continue just being a tradesperson. Is that something you were thinking back in those days?
Absolutely, Ron. I don't know that I was thinking it back in the days, but over the years, it's become very clear that in addition to what you said, in the paint, what the painters say is, "I'm stuck on the brush." That's right. What they say. They're stuck on the brush. But there's in my industry, there's typically two avenues that are the most common for companies to start. One is a painter, a tradesman decides he wants to go into business for himself, or a salesperson that was selling for a previous company goes into business for themselves, which that's the route that I came in. And very few people inherit their company, but it happens. But generally it's either from sales or a tradesman. And both of those have their inherent strengths and their inherent limitations of skill set or mindset. And I feel like, a lot of people, they go into business because they want more freedom of time, or they want to earn more money, bigger house, nicer cars, whatever it is. But so they get in, they have time, but they don't have money. And then they invest all their time and start achieving some success. And now they have money and no time.
Right.
And to have freedom, you need time and money to get freedom. And having the business mindset and running your business like a business. I tell, my people and all the friends in our industry that I talk to, I'm like, look, we are not in the painting business. And Ron, you're not in the painting business. We're in the people business. We're in the customer experience business. And it just so happens that, we're painting a house or roofing a house, and you guys are cleaning it. But at the end of the day, we're serving a need of a very similar customer. And we want to leave them smiling. When we're done dealing with them, they're going to most likely tell a story. And what story are they going to tell? That story is either going to help us or hurt us, right?
Mm-hmm. I like it. That's I've always heard, and we're huge believers in customer experience around here at Two Maids and a Mop, and so we've talked to plenty of people in that field, and so we are all over it. But usually, what I tell people is, it's how when we drive off, it's how we feel. But what you just said, there's a story that's going to be told after you left, actually is a better way to describe how to measure the success of your service. And I think if everyone thought about what they were doing, whether you're selling a product or a service, when you leave and when that homeowner talks to their neighbor or their family member or their coworker about the experience, that story they tell, that's going to determine success or not. That's a great way to think about it, in my opinion.
You know, Ron, there's a famous quote that comes to mind by Maya Angelou, and it says, "At the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or what you did. They will remember how you made them feel." And if I think back through the most memorable experiences in my life, it was really connected to how I felt. We had a remodeling kitchen nightmare where the contractor literally made my wife cry, constantly made her belittled her, made her feel like she knew nothing, laughed at her when she would ask basic questions. And it's like we don't ever want someone to feel that way. And then making sure that our teammates, that's a whole nother level, have that same feeling of customer service and customer experience.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of your story as we're kind of chronicling this to the end of the story, which I guess we're not at the end because it's still growing, but there's a lot of good happening today for you inside your business. So you're selling, you're hiring folks, not inherited, but you took over this business, you make money pretty quickly. How does it start scaling? And what does that look like, the early scale?
Okay, so initially when I was doing most everything except what I like to call the real work, the work on the ladders, my first hire was to hire office help to answer the phones, schedule the appointments, and start processing some of the bills from vendors and such. And from there, I was able to concentrate more of my time on selling and getting my name out there and marketing, and now the leads start flowing in. So at that point, I needed to hire an estimator or salesperson. We actually call them project consultants because that's what they're there to do, is consult for a project. So that was the growth, was hire office help and then start hiring salespeople, and of course more production crews along the way.
So what was the catalyst? Like, what was the tipping point for you to really see this business could be something? Like, it could be a real life-changing type of endeavor for you?
Well, that's a great question. There's several milestones along the way, and one of them was when I began to see the picture of a leadership team. A sales manager managing the salespeople and leading the salespeople, a production manager over all of the work crews, and a marketing manager running the marketing. And when I began to see the picture of what my org chart looked like, I wrote my name in all the boxes that I was currently filling. And I just committed it to prayer and to action. And within 1 year, I had all of those boxes filled. And so at that point, I was spending my time leading the leadership team as they were running the day-to-day operations of the company. And that's when I really began to have freedom of time. It wasn't just money at that point. It was time as well.
You must have been just booking work left and right. I mean, for you to be able to pull yourself out of every role within 12 months, that's doing it, man.
Well, no, okay. So let me fix it. It was not 12 months.
Okay.
That was literally like 7 years for me to get to that point. What
did you do on the 7-year celebration? Did you just go back to work the next day? Did you celebrate?
Well, I'm the type of personality that my victories are very short-lived and I'm on to the next one. I don't take much time to celebrate. and I throw it in my quiver, and I keep going. And so I wanted to keep building, and I was just able to concentrate my effort in different areas, more focused. And so whether it was marketing or building a sales team, and there was actually a season in the early like 2012, 2013, where I trimmed my company back. We were doing about 13 million a year, but we kept hitting a ceiling because of our systems were maxed out and not scalable and outdated. And so I actually had to make some significant changes to kind of reset us on a new foundation.
Yeah, that's a good segue, because I had a question about your personal life. My own personal life was well, there wasn't one. As I was building the business, and that was a sacrifice that I chose to make. I was in a unique situation in that I didn't really have any family around me, so it was a little bit easier for me to make that decision. Others don't have that luxury because maybe they have children or whatever. What type of personal life did you have as you were scaling this business from the ground up?
Well, in the early years, Ron, I was working, 12 to 14 to later hours a day, 6, 7 days a week, constantly coming home to my dinner on a plate in the microwave, covered up by a paper towel, missing recitals, practices, games for my kids. And my wife is a champ, and she held down the fort and knew what we were working towards. But I seriously missed out on a lot of things. And then when I began to have freedom of time, I started making it up to my family. I mean, we would literally, my wife and I, we would travel to Mexico like 6 times a year for a number of years, take the kids 3 or 4 times. At that point, just like, because time is precious and it slips away, and I didn't want to lose any more time. Not that I was completely absent from my kids, but there were things that I wanted to do with them that I just didn't have an opportunity to do up until that point.
So looking back on that, what are your thoughts for a future or even a current entrepreneur that's in those early startup phases, that's got a life, outside of the office or the business? Is there a way to build a business without having to sacrifice so much of your life?
I think there is. It's knowing, putting everything in perspective. Your business is not your life. Your business is there to serve you, to serve your purpose, your dream, your family, and to make a profit in doing so. Well, if it wasn't for my wife and I being on the same page, my wife was raising the kids. She was not working a career. When we started out, we had the same vision. I wanted a wife that was going to be at home, raising the kids and taking care of the house. And that's what she wanted too. But not every family is set up that way. Not everybody's values are that. And just knowing what are your limitations going to be. And, in some ways, Dave Ramsey likes to say this about money, live today like others won't, and tomorrow you can live and give like others can't. And so whether you're dealing with money or time, there's truth in that. And, at the same time, if you just go and work your life away, well, your family isn't going to stick around. You're not going to have a relationship with your kids, and it's going to be too late. So knowing what those boundaries are is very, very important in doing so. But what I basically did is my life at that time for those years was my family, my church, and my business. I really had no social life during those times.
My mentor that I've yet to have an opportunity to meet is Warren Buffett, which most people, when they hear that, they're like, of course he is. The dude's a mega billionaire, but that's not what has attracted me to him all these years. It's really his values, his savvy, it just seems so humble, and he makes everything seem so easy. Just everybody can become a billionaire. And so one of the things that I remember him saying, and he said it multiple times since I first heard him years ago, is that the true secret to success for behind an entrepreneur is not the entrepreneur himself, but it's the person that they're married to, the partner in life they have. And I can't say that enough, because I was fortunate to meet someone, sounds like you as well, that understood who they were getting into life with. And my wife Rachel is amazing, and she does a great job supporting me, and hopefully I do a great job of supporting her. And we kind of stay in our lanes, and that allows for the entire family to function at a pretty high level. So hiring people is great, but being a partner in life with someone is maybe even more important.
You're totally right on there. So, but say there's people listening, and I'm sure there are, that don't feel they've got that relationship. Where do they start? Well, one of the things you could do is just sit down and just have a vision board with your spouse. What do we want our future? Our future is a blank canvas. What's the picture we want to paint? How do we want to end up in 5 years, in 10 years? How do we want to retire? And then what are the steps? And if you can, have common ground on where you want to end up, you can then work backwards and reverse engineer that into what you need to do today, which could probably bring some clarity of how everybody's spending their time in their career and on their company.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's fast forward to the juicy stuff. You went through those early startup pains. Things really went well for you quickly, it sounds like, even though I'm sure there was a few headaches that you've chosen to forget. 7 years into it, you're growing. You actually expanded into other home service avenues. I think you're into roofing and gutters nowadays, and on top of painting. Things are going well. You're featured on a really high-profile primetime CNB series a few years ago to feature all the success that you've had the fortune to accumulate. What's life like for you today?
Okay, so life like for me today is I do go into the office every day, but I spend my time meeting with my leadership team, working on business development ideas. I actually have a passion project I'm working on right now, which is I call it Live Out Loud with Jason, and I'm passionate about personal growth and helping people discover and live out their God-given talents and calling in life. And I'm spending a fair bit of my time on that as well. I do a little bit of speaking here and there, and I like to work out with my son. We like to go mountain biking. We like to travel. Our family loves hiking in Hawaii and other things like that. So really, it's just outdoors, which I never really was an outdoors person, but I'm becoming more of an outdoors person now. But hanging out in the backyard at the pool with the family, that's just what does it for me.
So, this sounds like the American dream. That's what everybody who starts a business really sees down the road. So are you living that dream? Like, if you look back 24 plus years ago when you first started Phillips Painting, today's version of yourself, is that what the dream looked like?
Even more than I ever dreamed. I am so thankful and blessed for the situation, the family I have. I'm thankful that my wife has beat cancer twice, and that's a whole nother challenge that we've had as a family. We also have 5 kids, so we live a very busy life. But my life is more full of joy than I ever dreamed it would be. And I had pretty decent dreams to start with, but honestly, if I could go back and tell my younger self something, it would be dream bigger.
I like it. Oh man, that's the best thing you could tell anyone. All right, so love the story. I'm going to ask you some inside baseball stuff if you're cool with that. Some kind of impromptu questions. You're gonna hit them out of the park though. I'm trying to think of another baseball metaphor, but I think that tapped out.
Listen, I live in Texas, so it's football metaphors.
There you go. I'll change the sport.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
All right, so we're going to go back 24, almost 25 years when you're showing up for the first day and you're doing your thing. You're several weeks into the business, and I know it's probably like me, kind of hard to remember everything about those early days. But if you could go back and you could do one thing differently, what would that one thing be?
I would connect more with people in my industry, because for so long I kept the blinders on. I kept my head down, my nose to the grindstone, which was great. But at the same time, if I would have reached out to some networking groups and such, even this podcast, right, and resources around me, I feel I would have gained some earlier insights into things and ways to grow my business, because what I spent most of my time doing, Ron, was reinventing the wheel, like Fred Flintstone in Bedrock, carving a new wheel out of stone for my car instead of just going to the wheel store and buying the wheels that were already best for my car.
Yeah, I've seen it. This podcast has actually given me a pretty cool opportunity to meet other home service entrepreneurs across North America, and I learn something every time. It's supposed to be for the listeners, but I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. This is as selfish of a project as it gets, because I learned something from every single one of these interviews, and we implement something inside our own business model. So I'm totally agree with you. Whether it's meeting an industry legend, I've had the opportunity to meet some really, really high profile, cool folks that are like celebrities to me, to the local small business owner that's doing some fun things. All those connections are profitable in some way or the other. So let's talk about the thing that everybody likes to talk about in the home service world, hiring. I don't know if there's ever been a more difficult time to hire people other than this year that we're living, 21. There's a whole lot of probably reasons that we could sit here and discuss. But beyond those reasons, what are some things that you guys are doing right now to combat that issue? Is hiring a challenge for you at all?
It's never easy. Companies are desperate for people that will move the needle, and people who will jump all in and be a part of the team and not just come punch the clock. And I think there's a lot of aspects to that. The value proposition goes both ways. But something that's really made a difference for us is maybe not necessarily in the hiring, but we use it as a part of the hiring process, which is personality and behavioral profiles, which helps us really match the right person to a job that they're going to find intrinsic value in. And when we put the right person, match them, their skill set and their internal motor, so to say, to the position, now our turnover goes down significantly because we've got the right person there. Now, as far as sourcing people, we treat recruiting like we do marketing. We spend money on it. We are actively, constantly advertising through various channels, whether it's Indeed or reposting things on Facebook, or even going to local events, job fairs and such, to find those people. And then once you have a stack of resumes, it's about having a systematic interview process through which you can screen down to find the ones that are going to most likely succeed on your team.
So what does it look like in terms of the culture inside your business? Is it something that's always improving and growing, or are you really, really happy where you are from a culture standpoint?
I'm happy, but I'm never content with the status quo. And we are always working on culture. We measure our culture and give we use an app called Office Vibe, and it queries the team once a week and just asks some basic questions, because culture is very, very, very important to us, because that is a hidden either profit multiplier or profit thief, is your culture. And having people that are really, we actually say we want people that are going to drink the Kool-Aid. I know that's a negative term from what Jim Jones back in the day, but we really want people that are like, hey, this is my team. This is my company. I don't want someone on this team that's going to be a slacker or not build the culture, because, that's going to hurt me in the future. That's going to hurt my team. I love my team. This is my home. This is my future. And when you have people like that are protecting the culture, it makes a huge difference. That's part of some of the trimming I had to do back in 2012, 2013 time.
Yeah, I think everybody says the same thing. Like whether you're a painting company or an investment firm, you got to have the culture. You got to have the right culture. Everybody uses that word so much nowadays, but so few people actually know what it means. And whether you want one or not, you're going to have one. And so if you're going to have one, you might as well direct it. You might as well drive it. And in my opinion, the easiest way to drive it is to lead by example. People will go as far as you go, and so I'm with you. We've always wanted to take over this industry we're in, and everybody that joins our organization should believe that one day they're going to write a book about our story, about the Two Maids and a Mop story. That's how revolutionary we want this to be, and that means we want dreamers here. We want some very entrepreneurial-minded dreamers, and that's good. It doesn't probably work for everybody. It's probably a little bit less process here than what you see at a lot of other organizations, but that's the culture that I've wanted, and it's not been perfect, but it's worked out well. So whether you want culture or not, it's going to happen. So like I said, I think it's important for just to get in front of it and drive it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Could not agree more.
So I'm going to talk about something that's really fun to me. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It's customer experience. I think that in the service industry specifically, there is an opportunity that a lot of people don't have. It's very difficult to provide an experience for a lot of things. If you're buying something off Amazon, there's plenty of customer experience things you can gain from that, but it's definitely a little bit more invisible than what our work is. If people see our people, customers interact with our employees. We have an opportunity that's unique. And so why not make it remarkable if we're going to have that unique opportunity? So what are some things that you guys are doing? Let's really, if you're okay sharing some of those secrets, what are some things, maybe even a fun story to share about a customer experience story inside your business?
Well, I tell you, we like you value that, and I'm trying to think of a specific example. One might come to me, but I'll tell you what we're actually doing is measuring the customer experience. We actually use a third-party service called Guild Quality, and they are the typical tool in my industry to measure customer experience. And we started out, when we started measuring, we're like right on par with all of our peers in our in our geography. And I'm like, I'm not okay with that. So we started working on it. We started analyzing, every touch point that we have with the customer. Like, okay, every touch point that we have with the customer, we're either going to build credibility and trust, or we're going to erode it. So we started measuring it, and then the next thing is connecting. I think you guys are into this too, Ron. Connecting compensation with customer satisfaction, because that is silently driving what we really value. And our three pillars to success are a thriving culture, raving fans, and a solid profits. And those are three things that we need to constantly be curating to have long-term success. So, we sometimes we have a customer that's hard to please. And we may even have one of our teammates, a project manager, who's like, hey, I don't know what to do with this customer. Can you help me? And we've got a different project manager that's maybe different, working with a different kind of a customer personality. So we might do a little tag team there if that's what it takes to deliver the customer experience that they want.
I like it. Yeah, the opportunity we have is, in my opinion, in most of the home service industry, being completely wasted. People get so caught up in what we do, the trade, and they believe that's why people hire us. And that's why people think they hire us, probably more than likely. But the opportunity to interact and engage, create a relationship with customers, with technology being as strong as it is right now, it's crazy that the people in our industry aren't using this opportunity in a more fruitful manner. So that's if I know that, and I also know that most people in our industry aren't doing it, why not take advantage of that situation and really go hard as we can to create an experience that people really that value and feel great about. And in your case, like you said earlier, create a story around it.
I'll tell you one of the things, Ron, that really we discovered in our understanding of this was, customers, prospects, homeowners, clients were very happy with us, but once they signed an agreement with us and hired us, it typically takes an average of 4 weeks before workers actually show up. Then we go and we do a good job and they're happy. But that dead time between them signing up with us and us showing up to do their project was this no man's land that created some dissatisfaction and disconnect. So what we did is we built a system, and we literally call it weekly hugs. And every 7 days, if they haven't been scheduled yet, they pop up on the list for our scheduler, which we call an expediter because we want them to schedule like Tetris. They call and say, hey, just want to let you know, give you an update, haven't forgot about you. You're on the radar. We're still looking at the week of, such and such, just to keep the circles connected with the customer, to let them know that we're still thinking about them. And that made a huge difference in our customer satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, now you have a relationship. It's not just a commodity service. It's you're a human. You're actually interacting with them, and that communication, as simple as it may be, is probably more valuable than the work you do. That way, whenever you make a mistake, that relationship can overcome. Hopefully, you don't make one, but if you do make a mistake, the relationship can overcome it.
You're right there, Ron. One of the things I tell my people is this: you can have amazing product and mediocre service, or you can have amazing service and mediocre product, and typically the customer with the amazing service and the mediocre product is going to be happier at the end of the day.
Yep, totally agree. All right, you're nailing these questions so far, Jason. Let's see if we can keep it going. All right, actually, just a couple more. These are super softball ones. I tried to do another baseball metaphor, but I went too. All right, so you're talking to a room full of entrepreneurs. They're all in the home services industry. These guys are all you and I 20 years ago. You got 2 minutes to tell them everything they need to know about what their future life is going to look like. What's one piece of advice you would give all these guys in that room?
The piece of advice I would give them is create an accountability culture where accountability is something you are, not something you do to someone. And you do that by setting clarity of expectation, expected outcomes, and having regular and open communication whenever there's a variance in expectation. And instead of waiting for an annual or quarterly review to let someone know you're unhappy with them, I believe that most teammates want to succeed and want to serve their company well. And I believe that the relationship between manager and employee needs to be improved. And that needs to happen through just regular coaching and communication, and help guiding your employees into their success.
I like it. You can't do it by yourself. You're going to have to build an army, a team around you, and those guys and gals have to care about it like you do in a similar vein. And I think that's possible. I really do. I don't think that everyone has to start a business to be happy in life. I think people can work inside corporate America and be excited about it. Certain people need to be entrepreneurs. I'm one of those people, but it doesn't mean everyone has to go out and start a business to live a life of purpose. All right. So speaking of that, let's talk about resources. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to podcasts and books. I mean, just eat it up. In fact, that's one of the reasons I stumbled into you, just listening to a podcast recently. And so what are some of those resources that you'd share with everyone here?
Oh gosh, it depends really on where you're at and what you need. But I love books on leadership. There's accountability leadership. I love books on communications, such as Crucial Conversations, Crucial Accountability. That's another one. Traction, any of the EOS books to help you bring clarity and in your organization is also great. Gosh, the list just goes on and on. How to win friends and influence people. I guess it really just depends on what subject.
That book you just talked about, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I've read so many. I can't remember how many times I've read the book. I can't remember exactly when it was published, but it was a long time ago. If I'm not mistaken, in the 30s.
Yes.
And there's definitely it dates itself with some of the language. However, it's still timeless. It still works today, and I think it will always work, because all it's really saying is, think of customers, think of employees, think of vendors, think of anyone around you, and figure out a way to engage with them. And you're going to succeed in some way if you do that over time. So I agree with you. Read that book. If you don't want to read anything else, just pick that book up and read it. You're going to love it. And it'll help you as a business owner and as a leader of people as well.
Ron, there's one other one that there's one other one that particularly comes to mind. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we have this pride of I can do it, I'm going to do it, I can do this by myself, I can figure it out myself, which is what led me to early success. It also led me to, like I said earlier, reinventing the wheel constantly. So it therefore became my limitation. And there's a book by Dan Sullivan called Who, Not How. And I believe that is a book that all entrepreneurs should read. Who, not how. The power of getting, instead of figuring out how to do something, meet the who that already knows and makes it very easy. Something might take you 3 days to do, they can do in an hour and a half.
I'm on it. You've challenged me. It's a book I've yet to read. It's unheard of, so I'm on it. All right, Jason, you've been awesome to talk to. I love your story. I think it's super inspirational. I think a lot of people who want to be you can use a lot of what you talked about today to build their own business, whether it's in painting or not. I don't think it really matters, but anything inside the home services industry right now is booming. Demand is as strong as it's ever been for us, at least, and I'm sure same for you guys. Times are good, but there's a lot of things out there that could create issues and hurdles for you, and hopefully today's interview will help prevent some of those challenges or at the very least help fix some of those issues as well. So Jason, thanks for your time. Congratulations on building a life of purpose and a tremendous business. It's an honor to talk to you, honestly. So congrats on everything and thanks for your time today. Before we go, I'd love for anyone that specifically that lives in the DFW area have an opportunity to connect with you, but even an entrepreneur that's outside of that area that wants to learn from you and maybe they're in the home service industry, what can people do to connect with you and learn more about you?
They could find me on Facebook is one. It's facebook.com/Phillips Jason W. Or you can just go to my website, which is phillipshomeimprovements.com. And you can fill out a form, call the number, whatever, and just say, hey, I heard Jason on Ron's podcast. I'd like to connect with him. And they'll forward me the message and we can connect up. I would love that.
All right, Jason, well, you keep on grinding, you keep on hustling, you keep on growing that business, and let's stay connected.
Thank you so much, Ron.
You bet.
Hey guys, Beth Lovett in Business Development. If you enjoyed this episode, then please share with your friends, and don't forget to tune in to the next episode of Cleaning Up. Have you ever wondered if you wanted to be in business for yourself? If so, then don't hesitate to give me a call at 205-789-8027 or email me at bethl@ineedamaid.com. And if you just want a window shop, then you can see us online at twomaidsfranchise.com.